Ladies and gentlemen, this is Steve Eyes. You're on the EyesisWatchin channel, and what a great start to a new year right here. President Donald Trump ringing in the New Year's with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago. That's right, what a great start to 2026 right here. A lot of craziness, people, and we got a lot to talk about. First of all, standing ovation for President Donald Trump. First Jewish president to also receive the first Israeli prize ever awarded to a non-Israeli. Historic moment right here. Netanyahu himself said, and I quote, "We decided to break a convention or create a new one, and that is to award the Israel Prize, which in almost our 80 years, we've never awarded it to a non-Israeli. And we are going to award it this year to President Donald Trump. First ever, people. Unprecedented." Maybe this is why Mark Levin was manhandling Trump while calling him the first Jewish president. Okay, look at him over here ragdolling Trump. That doesn't look like your friend right there. That looks like a mafia boss manhandling his little worker like he's on a dummy mission. None of this is surprising though. This is the same Trump who once said, "My father would tell me the most powerful lobby in this country is the Jewish lobby."
My father would tell me the most powerful lobby that there is in this country is the Jewish lobby. It's the Israeli lobby.
It's the Israeli lobby. He said that word for word, and this is why Trump seems to be bending over backwards for them, which is crazy to think that if we said those exact words, we might be charged with some kind of anti-Semitic hate crime. Why is Trump doing all this, you ask? Well, guess how much money Trump received from that lobby?
Miriam gave my campaign, indirectly and directly, $250 million. She was number one. When somebody can give you $250 million, I think that we should give her the opportunity to say hello.
Well, he gave her more than an opportunity to say hello. We know who runs Donald, people. $250 million from Miriam Adelson. Her late husband, Sheldon, made it very clear who they are loyal to.
Somebody said that the Adelson family has nothing to gain except that which is in our heart. I am not Israeli. The uniform that I wore in the military, unfortunately, was not an Israeli uniform. It was an American uniform, although my wife was in the IDF, and one of my daughters was in the IDF, and my two little boys, our two little boys, one of whom will be bar mitzvah tomorrow. Hopefully he'll come back. Thank you. Hopefully he'll come back. His hobby is shooting, and he'll come back and be a sniper for the IDF.
Wow.
All we care about is being good Zionists, being good citizens of Israel, because even though I'm not Israeli born, Israel is in my heart.
Well, there you have it, people. Miriam Adelson bought the United States for $250 million. Deficit Donald has been bought, people. Netanyahu went even further, saying Israel has never had a friend in the White House like President Trump. His leadership, his clarity, his unwavering support for Israel are apparently unmatched. True friendship, we're told, is proven in moments of challenge, and Trump has stood with Israel every step of the way. This is Netanyahu's 5th visit to the White House in under a year. I told y'all, Netanyahu really runs the place, and Trump is just house sitting at this point. Maybe Trump is Israeli, would make sense actually, considering, Netanyahu wouldn't be breaking tradition by giving him that Israel award, But it's crazy, right? Think about it. He gets the Israeli award right after the Epstein stuff gets released. I mean, Trump was mentioned how many times in these files? Trump was the 3rd most mentioned name in those documents right after Epstein himself and Ghislaine Maxwell. At this point, forget about the Epstein list. I want to see the Trump list, okay? What if Trump was the ultimate blackmailer working for Mossad here? Mar-a-Lago might be the real pedo island, and Epstein's island was just the distraction. Or they were working together as the blackmailing dream team, Bonnie and Clyde for trafficking kids. Epstein wasn't just a scandal. Epstein was a child trafficking Mossad agent whose job was to blackmail politicians, forcing obedience through satanic acts on a pedo island and on his jet. That's what it was. And then Netanyahu hands Trump the award right after the files drop. I mean, look, they are not that stupid. This is all done on purpose. And that's the part that people refuse to accept, because what if the real documents actually described things so horrific it would have everyone losing their minds? And what if Epstein isn't even dead to begin with? Because before the media ever reported Epstein's death, there were anonymous posts on 4chan describing it in detail. Not after. Before any MSM got a hold of the story, there were posts claiming cardiac arrest in quotes, and then transport, time of death, even where it was declared. Some people saying he was snuck out the back. He had to go to the hospital because of a cardiac event. And one of those posts goes further, saying Epstein was taken out after count, moved in a wheelchair. Transport van shows up that doesn't even log in, and the poster believes he was switched out before anyone had any info about what happened to Epstein. That's the claim, okay? Not a theory. A real post with a timestamp sitting there before the official story even existed. And to this day, the official narrative does not definitively prove Epstein's dead. No clear footage, cameras malfunction, guards asleep, and the logs were falsified. A body no one outside a tight circle ever independently verified. Even the picture looks highly suspicious, okay? And then years later, instead of clarity, we get AI-generated documents and fake suicide footage uploaded to the official DOJ website. And if Epstein were dead beyond all doubt, none of this would be necessary. There would be clean footage, clean records, clean timelines. Instead, we get pure noise and chaos, confusion, and a story that relies entirely on trusting the same institutions that lost the cameras, lost all the logs, lost the guards, who knows what happened to them, and now can't even keep fake AI videos off their own website? So yes, the possibility exists, not because of fantasy, but because this system never closed the case in a way that removes reasonable doubt. And when something involves intelligence agencies, blackmail networks, and global power, reasonable doubt isn't paranoia, it's basic pattern recognition. A lot of us are noticing. And speaking of patterns, fast forward 60 years from JFK to Epstein, and look, it's the same BS. When the Epstein files dropped, I immediately thought this is like the JFK BS, because this is how it always starts. So many endless, discombobulated facts, it has people's heads spinning, and it's done on purpose. We can expect the 9/11 files to be the exact same way. They're delaying it so they can add so much AI slop, it'll have everyone just confused. I mean, millions of files? Really? They really think you're stupid, okay? I mean, look at this post right here. Anonymous posts this on X, claiming the Epstein files on the DOJ website let you highlight redacted text, copy it, paste it into another document, and suddenly you get to see everything that was hidden, everything that was redacted. Literally just highlight, copy, and paste, and that's it. No hacking required, no tools, no skills involved at all. I mean, something a 5-year-old could do. Then they point out you can hit Control F, search Trump with a space, and suddenly his name appears hundreds of times. Sounds crazy until you actually look at what's being searched. Because when you go through the results, it isn't some clean Epstein document dump. It's a sloppy, bloated collection of unrelated DOJ material mashed together. I mean, you got the Mueller report references, Roger Stone sentencing, Michael Flynn oversight, campaign finance investigations, things about Giuliani, Cohen, Kushner, Capitol Police, Proud Boys, stuff that has nothing to do with Epstein. And all of this is sitting in the same searchable pile in the Epstein files, and Trump's name shows up mostly as background context. Okay, Trump's former attorney, Trump administration, President Trump was asked, not allegations, not findings, not conclusions, just name proximity. The name is there to inflate the count and to not explain anything. So people fixate on the number instead of what those mentions actually say. And the craziest part, they're deleting it. They're deleting all of the mentions of Trump in these files in live time, and buried underneath all that noise, there's basically one line that actually connects Trump and Epstein in a direct way. One, the line saying Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet more times than previously reported or that investigators were aware of. That's it. One Epstein-specific physical proximity reference drowned under hundreds of irrelevant notes. And that's not random because the data set is supposed to be noisy. It's noisy on purpose. Searching a name gives you volume instead of clarity. So the argument becomes optics instead of substance. If you already hate Trump, you point at the number and say, look at how many times his name appears. If you already support Trump, you skim it and say, this is all garbage. Nothing to see here at all. You click on it and it's irrelevant topics, irrelevant mentions. Both sides walk away convinced they're right, and the actual point never gets dealt with. The truth remains hidden, which is exactly why it took so long to release it in the first place. Did you really think they took this long and didn't mess with these files, changing up everything, adding, subtracting? Because did anyone really think these files were just sitting untouched for that long? Sections getting reorganized, some removed, others added, entire documents were rewritten, fake redacted, so someone with half a brain can unredact it, so that person can feel like a genius and completely miss the bigger picture. First, Trump says the files are coming, then they're already on someone's desk, then they don't exist, then they exist, but they're fake. Then they're fake but dangerous, Then it's Obama's fault. Then Obama's name is supposedly in them. Then scratch that, Hillary and Biden wrote the whole file, so it's all BS. Then Biden's in them. Then the files are fake again. Then they're real, but only when they can be used as a political weapon. And right in the middle of that chaos, Charlie Kirk starts publicly calling for the files to be released. He kept pushing for it. He kept talking about it. And then, well, what happened to him? And almost immediately, the Epstein story vanishes like someone just hit the mute button. No coverage at all for months after the Charlie Kirk event. It's almost like they needed it to happen so they can go in and erase, add, use AI Slop to add 5 million more documents. They took all of that time just to release it for you just in time for Christmas. Like, here's your Christmas gift. 5 million redacted files that you can unredact by copy and pasting. And then nothing shows up except BS about the Proud Boys. And then, of course, after the Charlie event took place, the government conveniently shuts down. So, oops, guess we can't release anything after all. And when the narrative finally comes back, it always lands on the safest possible version. The files are real, but only approved people look bad. Hell, even Michael Jackson was thrown in there. It's ridiculous. Trump's name might show up, sure, but only in a completely harmless way. Everyone else is guilty, compromised, suspicious, but Trump alone somehow walks away untouched. And that's how this kind of release works. It doesn't give real answers. It gives people something to argue over. It feeds confirmation bias perfectly while making sure nothing clean is understood and no conclusion is ever made. But isn't it absolute comedy? Kash Patel apparently examined thousands of hours of footage, went over the documents, and said there is no credible evidence that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked minors. So yeah, Epstein just killed himself right before he was about to be acquitted due to lack of evidence. That makes sense. And Ghislaine Maxwell is sitting in prison for trafficking kids to no one. Okay, there was no client list at all. Even Trump said this.
We need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? I just wish her well, frankly.
That is pure comedy, people. He wishes her the best. Okay, then comes the replies to that anonymous article where you copy and paste the redacted files and boom, they're unredacted. Do you not see that the incompetence is clearly on purpose? Even the comments like this, they're saying there must be a leak inside the FBI. They can't possibly be this incompetent. Like, the same reaction over and over again. People need to start waking up, okay? Because they reinforce that image on purpose. Like when the DOJ accidentally uploads fake Epstein suicide footage. Not even good fake footage. Old AI trash. Not even the newer Sora AI type stuff, okay, where it actually looks realistic, more like that Will Smith spaghetti AI from years back. That's what they had the nerve to post on the DOJ website, like, oops, our bad, that was actually from a random YouTube account in 2020. It's ridiculous because they want you to believe they're stupid. And once you believe they're stupid, you believe they're too stupid to run something as coordinated as a global blackmail and trafficking operation. Too stupid to keep it hidden. Incompetence becomes the perfect cover. And then it gets even more obvious because in real time, they start deleting mentions of Trump from the Epstein files. I mean, days ago, close to 1,000 results, then hundreds gone. Now around 300 and still falling. Same website, same search bar, fewer results every time you hit refresh. Isn't that something else? Well, at the same exact time, headlines start popping up saying officials discovered 1 million more documents potentially related to the Epstein case. 1 million more documents, while sections are being removed right in front of our eyes. From thousands to 1 million now, and even 5 million files incoming. Yet the actual files keep getting deleted. Not surprising though, they did this exact same thing with the JFK files. They dumped endless paperwork, flooded the files with endless AI garbage as I covered soon as that came out. I mean, created so many narratives that anyone looking for an answer finds something that supports whatever they already believe in. The mafia did it. Muslims did it. Zionists did it. Extraterrestrials from Mars did it, just to get the UFO crowd going. Everything and everyone thrown in so all theories cancel each other out and the real truth stays buried. That's how you hide something, not by keeping it hidden, but by drowning it in endless BS. And now they've got a new weapon, AI generating millions of documents of pure nothingness, which might explain why states suddenly aren't allowed to regulate AI and why the Epstein files get released through artificial intelligence, okay? Bloated with convoluted, discombobulated pages designed to overwhelm and exhaust anyone that tries to read them. This is psychological warfare. This is what it is. And while everyone's staring at files we already know have been messed with, they slip in the reward. Like, congratulations, Mr. President. First non-Israeli ever to receive the Israel Prize. Looking like his loyalty was rewarded from Operation Warp Speed to having his crew mess with these Epstein files and use advanced AI to add endless BS to even supporting the war with Iran. Everything. I mean, this is clearly his loyalty being rewarded. Accountability turned into an unreadable AI slop labyrinth. And they want it to feel sloppy on purpose. They want people to feel like they caught something, like they figured it out. Because that false sense of discovery keeps everyone busy while the real build-out happens behind the scenes. Think back to the Wuhan lab leak. They left a trail of breadcrumbs on purpose so someone somewhere can feel like a genius. Like, oh, they released this virus from the lab. I'm so smart, I figured this one out. They left the breadcrumbs for you. There was no virus. There was no pandemic. And once you understood that, you knew that it was strictly a depopulation plot through injections. Same thing with this Epstein BS. I mean, copying and pasting the redacted files unredacts them. Wow, I just outsmarted the FBI. What people need to understand is the whole Epstein stuff is nothing but a distraction at this point. We knew the files would be the most redacted files in history, as I've predicted months back. And even when the JFK files were released, I was like, this is total slop. I knew exactly what was going on. And I knew that this would be just another distraction. The Epstein stuff is clearly a distraction, so Israel can officially become the head of the AI control grid. I mean, NVIDIA anchoring a second core operation in Israel with a massive R&D campus in Kiryat Tivon. 160,000 square meters, 10,000 engineers, construction starting 2027. You guys are going to hear that year over and over here. Finishing in 2031. Land sold at a heavy discount. Jensen Huang calling Israel NVIDIA's second home. What this basically is NVIDIA, which is the AI king, building the hardware that powers the whole global AI surveillance prison. And now they're calling Israel their second home. Netanyahu even came out saying, it sounded like he was bragging. Nvidia, just a small little company, $4 trillion decided to make a massive investment in Israel. I mean, that's not small talk. That's the company behind the chips that run the surveillance, the predictive policing, financial systems, and just prediction tools, all of it, putting one of its main brains in Israel. And guess what comes with that? Jobs, more control and influence, while Americans are getting laid off or told to retrain. Okay, a lot of high-end tech work is vanishing in the States and in Canada and shifting overseas. At the same time, Israel is already plugged straight into Google and Amazon through Project Nimbus, not just storing data, but running analysis and automated decision systems at a government level. And that kind of tech never stays military, okay? It's being used to spy on the people. It always spreads into everyday life, and it doesn't just stop there. Multiple reports showing a large number of former Israeli military intelligence people now working inside major US tech companies, building and maintaining the systems everyone relies on. I'm not saying everyone there is a spy, but no other country has this kind of access inside American tech, and nobody even wants to acknowledge it. And while everyone is distracted with the Epstein files, arguing over redactions and name mentions, the companies shaping the next AI surveillance prison world are lining up with Israel at the same time, and nobody is talking about this. Palantir, Nvidia, defense-linked AI, surveillance tech, all moving together. Okay, they want an AI centralized system, and it looks like we know where they're going to set it up. Then you've got Jared Kushner. Remember what he said? He was talking about Gaza like it's beachfront property, saying the land could be very valuable, and from Israel's perspective, he'd move the people out and clean it up. And suddenly the tech and, the land, the surveillance, the displacement, it all lines up. They want that land for something, maybe massive databases to control their centralized AI power grid. This isn't complicated. If you control the computing, the data, and the system people depend on, you don't need to announce power, okay? It just runs in the background while everyone argues about distractions. And anything on the news is just pure distraction at this point. Israel doesn't need to run the world with elections or speeches or flags or even blackmail anymore. If you sit at the top of the AI control grid, they just install the system, step back, and watch everyone get digitally enslaved. And nobody knows where it's coming from. Okay, they don't know where this AI surveillance state is being programmed from. So when you get a low social credit score or a drone blows up your house because you were labeled a threat due to their predictive policing, no one will even know where those orders are coming from. They just blame it on, well, that's what AI says, it's artificial intelligence, it's a lot smarter than us. Entire aspects of life get automated. Outcomes get enforced. Nobody votes on it. Nobody even notices where it's coming from. One system everyone plugs into, and it quietly runs things in the background. And Netanyahu basically admits this when he talks about it like it's a long spiritual mission. I mean, he's talking about this like this is the greater Israel project. He said it in quotes, stretching across generations. He was talking about greater Israel, getting shown the map of the so-called promised land and saying he personally connects to it. That's not random talk, people. That's someone who already knows where this is headed. I didn't think greater Israel expanded into a Palantir AI surveillance prison world. I mean, that's where we're headed. Netanyahu can't stop praising Trump, and it just seems super bizarre. I mean, I've never seen him love on someone this much. Jews might really see him as a messiah. It's straight up devotion, saying over and over again, he's never had a friend like Trump. Not even close. Blessed to have him in the White House, which isn't foreign policy language at all. It's just pure loyalty language. And at the same time, he's on calls with Elon Musk, laying out the future with AI, autonomous vehicles, infrastructure, smart transport, turning Israel into the global AI hub. The same way the whole cyber world was weaponized, AI will be weaponized in the same way. And Musk is right there nodding along. No need to save money, folks. The future Chinese-style AI slavery grid will take care of everyone, end quote. That's what Elon Musk is telling the people. The same man that has about $1 trillion, or so they say. The free speech rebel who has endless contracts with the US government, surveillance tech, and brain chips. And when you zoom out, you start noticing a lot here, okay? Trump bending over backwards for Israel while calling it America first. Musk positioning himself as the head leader in this AI takeover. Netanyahu speaking with confidence like he runs the whole thing, which is why people keep asking how this keeps happening, okay? Why politicians across all parties always fall in line here. Why scandals just evaporate. Why files disappear. Why certain topics instantly become untouchable. Laws implemented to prevent us from speaking out. And that's where the Epstein operation matters, not as gossip or some tabloid scandal, but as a leverage system, a system that doesn't care about ideology, only compliance. And you don't need documents to understand it because the behavior already tells you everything. Loyalty gets rewarded and resistance disappears. And that's why the next phase here is truly some dystopian hellish-ish, okay? AI, robots, surveillance, autonomous systems, the tools that decide who controls the future, which is why it matters that Musk openly says he's building a robot army and isn't comfortable with doing it unless he keeps a strong influence over it so he can't be removed once the system exists. He wants total control over it, while pitching those same robots as workers, caregivers, surgeons, poverty solvers, an infinite money machine, okay? It'll make everyone rich, end quote. A parallel labor force designed to replace humans across all aspects of life, okay? Because once people depend on that system, whoever has influence over it doesn't need ideology. They don't need votes anymore. You just simply install the system, move back, and watch everyone get slaved under this autonomous AI slavery state. And when you put that next to Netanyahu openly pushing AI dominance and praising Trump as the greatest ally Israel has ever had, and hanging out with Elon Musk like they're besties, you start to see why this robot army sounds really terrifying, okay? It's not just an overstatement anymore because centralized AI-driven governance isn't theoretical anymore. The scariest thing here is if both Trump and Elon are compromised. Can you imagine what that means? And yeah, of course, obviously they are. So who's really at the head of the pyramid here? China already beta tested it, as seen right here. Check this video out. I mean, in China, CBDCs are linked to a user's digital ID. A cyclist was caught on camera riding without a helmet. Authorities reportedly deducted a 25 yuan fine directly from his digital wallet in real time. Deducting points in real time under a social credit system. I mean, this is insane. This is a nice look into literal surveillance hell. And guess what? If you thought that was crazy, you ain't seen nothing yet. Because now they got police robots to enforce this digital ID prison state. Yeah, great. Look at this right here. China now has Terminator police robots patrolling the streets. I told y'all Elysium really was a documentary, and now we're seeing it happen, okay? This robot's name is Engine AI T800. We really are living in the future right here. All of these leaders, from conservatives to liberals, saying robot armies are coming. Bernie Sanders even said this on a video titled "The Threats from AI Are Real," where he goes over how robots will replace everyone. He even mentioned Bill Gates saying humans are not needed anymore. Musk saying the same thing as well. And then he says this.
But what happens when you have robots replacing human beings in the act of warfare? When you have robot armies? What does the future look like if millions of robot soldiers replace human beings? Will leaders be more likely to engage in war or threaten military action if they don't have to worry about loss of life? Will there be literally an arms race in robots? So you can see country fighting country, not with their own human beings, not with their own soldiers, but with robots. And if you don't have to worry about losing robots as opposed to losing human beings, how will this shape foreign policies around the world?
Well, they never had to worry about loss of life. Clearly, people's lives are not important to them in any way. So yes, it will be completely crazy, but the point I'm trying to make here is it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum they're on. They're telling you robot armies are coming, and they also mention a date, okay? All those movies where robots take over, it really seems to be happening now. This is insane. Crazy to live through this, and they're all mentioning the same date, 2027. By 2027, as you can see here, multiple powers plan to deploy large-scale humanoid and autonomous robots into real-world roles. Foundation Robotics aims to field 50,000 Phantom Mk1 humanoid robots for high-risk military and industrial tasks, with humans approving lethal actions. The U.S. military is shifting towards swarms of cheap autonomous weapons under the Replicator Initiative, including robotic tank killer systems. France plans to put autonomous ground vehicles on the front lines by 2027, with a fully robotic combat force targeted for 2040. At the same time, Elon Musk envisions mass-producing millions of Tesla Optimus robots, calling them his army, in quotes, with production ramping as early as 2027 to reshape the global economy, he says. Let's just hope the Terminator robots are not that advanced and they glitch out. Like that $80,000 humanoid maid that anyone could buy. Has anyone seen that video? Let's hope the technology is not advanced and it's this bad. Here you go, folks, a humanoid maid that will help you with cleaning and cooking.
Hi, how's it going? Come on in. Just need some cleaning done in here. Stop, what are you doing? That's my mirror. What are you doing? Stop. Stop. One of your units just ran into my mirror and is causing damage. I'm a little worried. That's not gonna work.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
A lot of help.
My wall is slightly damaged. That's a weight.
Here we go.
Stop, settle down. So if you can cook me the meal, I'm gonna go on in here and play Fortnite, okay?
There you go. AI is taking over, folks. Okay, this is too much.
Just clean up after you.
Daddy, chill.
Oh my God, this is too much. Okay, so, it's actually terrifying to know they'll have robot police armies outside and they're just as clumsy with killing people. I mean, it's supposed to arrest you for a minor traffic violation and accidentally guillotines your head off. Oops. Technology is just, out of control. What can they say? This is actually hilarious. I've seen so many videos just like this. You want to know what the future holds? I mean, look at China, though. They perfected the surveillance state. Truly a dystopian nightmare over there. As you can see right here, these are the defeated people in the pandemic. Chinese people have no choice but to line up on their knees to let the health officials verify their vaccine passport in order to access public service. China announces those who refuse to get vaccinated will lose social credit points and be blacklisted from the government's welfare and public service. It would also impact their children's education, work, and house buying. So yeah, people, the UBI thing is not a good idea. Elon Musk saying he praises China for this exact system and also telling you not to save any money. They'll help you. You can trust this new system. Well, in order to keep your CBDCs active, this is what you'll look like. Okay, this is why we need to fight for freedom at all costs. That's where it's headed. We have China as an example. Population management by code instead of consent. And it worked so well over there. Western elites are openly admitting it. I mean, admiring them too. Every day, Musk included, on camera for years. Trudeau was on camera praising China. I mean, they asked him what nation he loved most, and he had the nerve to say China. Out of all the nations he could have picked, he picked China. Even he's on the side of these robots taking over because, when it comes to politics, a lot of them get in these powerful positions, end up committing crimes against humanity, and immediately become compromised. Now, of course, they're going to support poison death shots to poison you and weaken your body because they're involved in some real satanic pedo stuff, and they'll do everything in their power to prevent you from exposing them and dragging them to justice. This is why they're, holding the football and running to the finish line as fast as they can. This is why they're in support for this 2027 robot takeover agenda. They're hoping this system will prevent people from holding them accountable. I really think they put out videos like that robot that couldn't cook. They do that for a reason. It's supposed to cook you a meal and accidentally sets the kitchen on fire. I think they do that so people laugh at the idea of a robot takeover, thinking, that tech will never be that advanced. Trust me when I say they do have the tech, and it is that advanced. Of course they do. Hidden in the background, they got an entire digital surveillance Skynet set and ready to go. I'm pretty sure they're waiting for some really big event, like a massive terror event, in order to justify the installation of this system. I mean, check out this TED Talk right here with an Israeli scientist, Ido Bachelet, in 2013, talking about nanobots being used in injections. I mean, if they had advanced tech like this back then that they could put into syringes, you really don't think they have advanced humanoid robots that can enslave the population? Check this out right here.
Imagine a world where tiny machines can cure cancer. Yes, I am talking about nanobots. And these nanobots has the potential to change your life. It can cure any diseases. Or it can make you a superhuman. But with great power comes great responsibility. And we cannot deny that it can be misused. What if they malfunction or hacked? Or used as a weapon? But we must balance them with the risks. As we explore this world of nanobot technology, we must constantly evaluate its impact on society. Only then can we fully unlock the potential of nanobots.
Okay, here we go.
By people like Eric Drexler and Robert Freitas and Ray Kurzweil. Today I'm going to show you that these robots exist here in Israel. And I'll show you this syringe, which I brought from my lab. So this syringe has inside it 1,000 billion robots. So these robots are each 50 nanometers long, which as you can see in this slide under the microscope.
That's
50
crazy.
nanometers is about 2,000 times thinner than the thickness of your hair. Okay, and these robots were born actually 3 years ago in a research I did with Sean Douglas, now a UCSF professor. But over the past year and a half, in my group at Bar-Ilan University, we've been developing and testing robots for a variety of medical and therapeutic tasks. So we might not need even new drugs. We have amazing drugs already. We just don't know how to control them. This is the problem. And our nanobots hopefully solve this problem, and I'll show you how. So there's an interesting question. How do we build a robot or a machine the size of a molecule? So the simple answer would be, we can use molecules to build this machine. So we're using molecules, but we're not using just any molecule. We're using the perfect, most beautiful molecule on Earth, at least in my opinion, which is DNA. And in fact, every part of the robot, every part of our nanorobots, moving parts, axes, locks, chassis, software, everything is made from DNA molecules. And the technology that enables us to do this originated 30 years ago in the pioneering works of Adrian Seaman, culminating 7 years ago in the works of Paul Rothman from Caltech, which was also featured in TED. And it's called DNA origami. Now in DNA origami, we do not use a piece of paper, we use a single long strand of DNA. And the output of this CAD software, as you can see, is a spreadsheet with fragments of DNA, which you can attach to a message and send to a company, one of 24 companies that make DNA by order, and you'll get those DNAs several days later to your doorstep. And when you get them, all you need to do is just mix them in a certain way, and these molecular bricks will self-assemble into millions of copies of the very structure that you designed using that CAD software, which is free, by the way. You can download it for free. So let's have a look at our nanorobots. So this is how the nanorobot looks like. It's built from DNA, as you can see, and it resembles a clamshell in which you can put cargo. You can load anything you want, starting from small molecules, drugs, proteins, enzymes, even nanoparticles. Virtually any function that molecules can carry out can be loaded into the nanobot, and the nanobot can be programmed to turn on and off these functions at certain places and at certain times. This is how it controls molecules. And so this particular nanorobot is in an off state. It's closed. It securely sequesters anything you put, any payload you put inside, so it's not accessible to the outside of the robot. For example, it cannot engage target cells or target tissues. But we can program the nanobot to switch to an on state based on molecular cues it finds from the environment. So programming the robot is virtually like assembling a combination lock, using disks that recognize digits. But of course, instead of digits, we're assembling disks that recognize molecules. So these robots can turn from off to on, and when they do, any cargo inside is now accessible. It can attack target cells or target tissues or other robots, which you'll see later on.
So they can inject you with 1,000 billion little nanobots that could be off at the time of injection, and they can be turned off to do whatever, they want them to do later on. So, the idea of a vaccine payload being set off by 5G towers, it doesn't sound far-fetched anymore. And how crazy is it that as soon as these mRNA shots were rolled out, now we have Bill Gates saying, well, we got to work with these mRNA shots, waving his hands around, how he does it, saying a lot of these lipid nanoparticles are self-assembling and they do a lot of things we don't really know. This is some crazy-ish people. They knew exactly what they were doing. But yeah, it's not like, vaccine makers would use this technology like for anything sinister covertly, right? Take your tinfoil hat off, conspiracy theorist. Oh, wait. In 2015, after this man gave this speech, Pfizer teamed up with Edo Bachelet right here at Bar Ilan University. This agreement is focused on gaining a better understanding into DNA nanorobots as potential carriers of different proteins for possible new treatments. The terms of the agreement were not disclosed. Like, hold up, what? On the official Pfizer website, it says this? But the real story is who builds the systems that replace human decision-making, okay? Who owns the data and controls the deployment of these machines? And who keeps influence once human labor and resistance stops mattering? And then right on cue, Trump comes out and says, we're going to need robots and artificial forms of employment that will be employing artificial things, end quote, which translates to jobs are coming back, just not for humans. And this lands right after he was on Fox News arguing with Laura Ingraham, saying you can't raise wages if you flood the country with foreign workers, only to immediately contradict himself and say, no, you have to bring in talent because you can't just pull people off the street in the US from the unemployment line to build missiles, meaning full support for H-1B visas. The same position Musk has pushed forever. Americans don't have the talent, can't do the jobs, so import millions, suppress wages, blow out housing, strain infrastructure, then a month later announce that those same jobs are getting wiped out by automation anyway, and they call that a golden age? So whether it's foreign labor or humanoid robots, the message remains the same. Humans are the problem. Humans are a virus, and they need to be replaced. And the people selling this as progress just so happen to be the same ones positioning themselves to control the machines that replace you. So yeah, line up and collect your Golden Age Skynet Fell For It Again award. Engraving included. So airstrikes have expanded from the Middle East to Nigeria and Venezuela now. That's right. Netanyahu in talks with Trump now to strike Iran again. And he's fully on board with another bombing of another Middle Eastern nation because, well, he was given a cool little Israeli award. Deportations extra slow, not a chance of even hitting 1 million deportations by the end of his term. AI slop instead of Epstein files, redacted documents, 5 million pages of BS added. None of them say anything. Blocking states from regulating AI made his son $1 billion richer through insider trading while the average American starves. Remember when Trump said this right here?
We're going to win with every single facet. We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more. We're going to win so much.
Yeah, I guess this is what he meant. Getting sick of it yet? It's wild how all around the world, at the same time, different versions of the same digital slavery state are being rolled out, just dressed up with different excuses. In Beverly Hills, you got AI cameras, drones, license plate readers, and audio surveillance literally installed in school bathrooms, with officials claiming it's about safety while never clearly defining the threats, spending millions to create a system where kids grow up knowing they're always being watched, even in the bathroom. And the tech doesn't even work. I mean, they'll falsely flag Doritos and clarinets as guns and send armed police after teenagers, which has happened. While studies show heavily monitored schools aren't safer, they're just more fearful and less trusting. Then you jump continents, and South Korea rolls out mandatory facial recognition just to buy a SIM card, because so much personal data has already been stolen that instead of fixing the breaches or holding these companies accountable, the solution is forcing the entire population into biometric compliance, tying your face to your phone to your identity, and your identity to state-approved access, all stored in government-linked apps after massive leaks exposed tens of millions of citizens. It's crazy. All of these different countries with the same exact outcomes being rolled out at the same time. In the US, it's sold as protecting kids. In South Korea, it's sold as stopping SIM card scams. Everywhere, it's framed as, reasonable and unavoidable. But the end result is the same infrastructure: constant monitoring, biometric ID, automated enforcement, and a population conditioned from childhood to accept surveillance as normal. You don't opt in, you grow up inside it. This isn't about safety or fraud. It's about building systems where access to basic life functions requires compliance, where algorithmic errors carry real consequences. And once the system is in place, the excuse no longer matters because the cage is already built. And right after the Bondi shooting, guess where Australia is at now? I mean, they're at a UK-style digital surveillance state, okay? Censorship to the extreme. I was watching this scumbag Australian politician, and man, did it piss me off. I can't stand the way they talk. There's just something about the politicians in Australia that just makes you want to punch them in the face. Really, he's saying, if anyone has any criticism about Muslims in any way, they will throw the book at you, end quote. Like, seriously? And now Australians have to verify their age with things like digital ID or photo verification to fully use search engines like Google when logged in on their account. Right after the shooting. Can you believe that? And get this, guess what's happening in the UK? Guess what's going to happen in order to make digital IDs mandatory? Look at this headline right here on the Daily Mail. A new 9/11 is coming any day from the hundreds of Al-Qaeda sleeper agents ready to unleash carnage in the UK, says ex-MI6 spy. So a former MI6 spy is warning that another major terror attack like 9/11 or the UK's 7/7 bombings could happen at any time, end quote. He claims there may be hundreds of Al-Qaeda sleeper agents in the UK and argues the West is focusing too much on Russia while underestimating Islamic extremism and Iran's influence. The article runs through his backstory, training in Afghanistan, links to senior Al-Qaeda figures. Yeah, the man has links to Al-Qaeda and has worked with them. Crazy, right? Then working undercover for MI6, and says his intelligence helped disrupt serious plots, including a planned New York subway attack. Crazy. Endless manufactured emergencies, whether real or staged, all used to justify the same exact thing. Technocratic solutions that all lead to one endgame, a China-style totalitarian control grid. And we don't have to guess what that looks like. China is deploying police drones to monitor traffic and give people tickets for texting and not wearing seatbelts. Drones will be watching you at all times with cameras so advanced they can zoom in and read your text messages. These drones can also recharge themselves, as seen here in this video. This is absolutely wild. Another post right here saying China is in big trouble. Tens of thousands of young people are becoming homeless because they are blacklisted by social credit system. Once you are blacklisted, you are immediately cut off from banking service and digital payments. So you can't pay rent, buy food, or receive salary. It will end up, you will become homeless. And you can get blacklisted for unable to repay loan sharks with 25% higher interest on time. This is what it says right here. Absolutely wild. So there's no need to imagine what that system would look like. It's already there in China. I mean, as an example. And worst of all, this is absolutely nuts. Chinese people have no choice but to run to get vaccinated. China announced those who refuse to get vaccinated will lose social credit points and be blacklisted from the government's welfare. It would also impact their children's education, work, and house buying. Yeah, that's a real hellscape right there. Now, why do you think they need repeated injections for this new system to even work? Rhetorical question again. They need you basically brain dead and disconnected from God in order for you to accept such a godless world. Look at this right here. An Italian pathologist may have identified the cause of personality changes in certain vaccinated people.
I want to add also a comment to what Tina said about the change in personality, depression, and all these things. This is very real. And we have identified the reasons from the theory, and some doctors in Italy have unfortunately attacks and destroys also the endocrine system. So the glands producing hormones, and hormones are what make our emotions and feelings and all those things. And so an Italian pathologist near Venice, he went on a newspaper telling that all the brains he had investigated, he found the pineal gland completely destroyed on all the people who were vaccinated. Okay.
Wow. The pineal gland affected in every vaccinated person. It does make sense, especially with the crazy behavior we've been seeing lately. I mean, so let me get this straight. For years, they locked everyone down, masked them up, sterilized many people. I mean, they shut down schools, endless injections, 2 shots, boosters for the boosters, and then a full big pharma subscription plan sold like it was the miracle cure to all diseases. And they actually had the nerve to say that too. Helps prevent death in general. All to protect people from the seasonal cold. Fast forward a few years and now everyone is sick constantly. I mean, colds that never end. People are getting fevers, getting flus over and over again. Kids always home from school. Adults exhausted, foggy, run down. And what do you think they say the cause is? Of course, it's not the injections. Not the lockdowns, not the stress, the fear, the nonstop propaganda. Apparently, people's immune systems just forgot how to immune. You're not going to believe this. Look at this title right here. They call it an immunity hangover. That's why people are getting sick repeatedly. Or immunity debt, as if the human body is some kind of like credit card that's been maxed out. The logic is hilarious. So they shut down society, then inject everyone repeatedly with poison. And then people got sicker over and over, and they kept getting sicker. Then they blame the human immune system for failing the experiment. Kids are sick because they missed immune exposure. Adults are sick because stress and lifestyle collapsed their resilience. And after all of that, after admitting people are getting sicker by the day and dying more often than before, the solution they quietly circle back to is the same one that got us here in the first place. So the solution to this, no joke at the end of this article, is more injections. Like treating alcohol poisoning with a gallon of whiskey. Now more and more people are posting stuff like this. This man says, my days, chemical lobotomy in a 5 times jab patient. So don't agree on that. So this person in the video says the retard word. This guy doesn't agree with the retard word. Yeah. This is why they have changed in front of our eyes. Many of the vax are obviously affected by this. Now, a couple more images right here, as you can see. So he says the dark area, rather than gray, is signs of shrinkage of the brain. The black part of the brain indicates gray matter shrinkage, and the bright dot is a calcified pineal gland. Look at this. The black spots. Brains are shrinking. So remember the Reddit post I was going over maybe a few months ago, maybe last year? But many people are reporting, this is actually crazy, but parts of their brains are missing. Entire Reddit threads, and people like bragging about it, like, oh, you only got 5% of your brain missing. Check out my MRI. And it's like half their brain is gone. You're like, damn, that's starting to make sense there. And their pineal gland is calcified. So they're disconnected from God and they're retarded. Great. But endless things right here, as you could see before in 2019. Clearly a difference after 4 times jabbed with the Pfizer shot. I guess those nanobots are starting to get activated, huh? Yeah, people are getting sicker and sicker. And what's the Canadian government solution? Well, pre-approved MAID. That's right. I mean, you chose to listen to that scumbag Justin Trudeau, and now your body is disintegrating like you're bathing in hydrochloric acid. But don't worry, Canadians, your government loves you. Elbows up, because while people are watching their health fall apart and the healthcare system implode, the Canadian government is busy perfecting a paperwork-based death pipeline. Pre-approved euthanasia for everyone. That's exactly what people were asking for, meaning citizens can sign off on their own lethal injection years in advance. And once they lose capacity, the state carries it out automatically. No final consent, no moment to say stop. One of the last safeguards preventing involuntary death quietly erased. They dress this up as compassion. The nerve of these scumbags. Official reports calmly explain that someone with Alzheimer's could pre-authorize MAID if their condition worsens. And once they can't feed themselves, recognize their kids, or get out of bed, the injection proceeds whether they understand what's happening or not. Quebec already started doing this in defiance of federal law, and instead of stopping it, Ottawa basically shrugged and said, let's normalize it nationwide. They even called for a national conversation, conveniently excluding the very people who've been warning for years that this system is being deliberately expanded beyond end-of-life care. Since MAID was legalized in 2016, eligibility has exploded. First terminal illness, then non-terminal cases, then an attempted push for mental illness alone, which, is pretty vague. It could mean a lot of different things. 13-fold growth. It's now one of the leading causes of death in Canada. Oddly enough, it's absent from the official top 10. Like they're purposely leaving it out. And now we've reached the next phase here. Not just assisted dying, but scheduled dying, pre-approved, pre-authorized. So while people are getting sicker and sicker, poorer and more desperate, the messaging shifts. No talk of fixing a broken healthcare system, of course not. No talk of reversing damage done by the poison death shots. Instead, you get a headline like this from the National Post. 76,475 Canadians have died by MAID. Is that too many? What a weird question to ask. Really? The Canadian government kills a bunch of people and then asks, is that too many? They roll out a state-run death program, rack up tens of thousands of bodies, and then they got the nerve to ask if the numbers should be higher. Considering they're already approving MAID for people who can't pay rent, I'd say, yeah, the numbers are pretty nuts. But the image they chose is the real tell here. A shadowy hand holding a syringe in the dark. I know MAID is administered with a needle, but after the last years of endless poison injections, that image really hits different. It almost looks like they're quietly admitting the needle already did the damage they needed. And now the state is just offering the final pre-approved follow-up. Matter of fact, it sounds like this is their final booster right here. That's the last shot, the nail in the coffin. Elbows up, Canadians. More like arms up for the last injection you'll ever need. Canadians are broke, can't pay rent. 67% of Canadians say cost of living in their region is worst they've ever seen. Well, how does Mark Carney respond to this? He's taken immediate action to help Canadians back on their feet by sending another $2.5 billion to Ukraine. That's right. Yeah, that should help the poor Canadians pay rent. Oh, and on top of that, this one should help with groceries. Canada provides up to 12 months of income support and settlement services for LGBTQI+ refugees. Yeah, just what we needed. It's what we've all been asking for years. So Canadians get a slap in the face and a noose, basically, while Indian transsexuals get income support, and Zelensky gets another monthly supply of cocaine. We know $2.5 billion a month is how much he spends on coke, but it's just getting ridiculous, folks. And virus fear porn Fridays. Yeah, that's right. You know what time it is, people. Endless viruses, so many, your head will spin. In just a few weeks, we're getting bombarded again. But this title right here will give you a good chuckle. Okay, get this out. Considering no virus in history has ever been isolated fully, even in controlled lab environments, get this, drones have now detected deadly mutant viruses in whale breath in the Arctic. Yeah, whale breath. Not blood, not tissue, not a sick animal in a lab. No, whale vapor. A flying robot sniffed a mist cloud coming out of a blowhole north of the Arctic Circle and said, yep, that's the next pandemic right there. They flew drones straight through whale snot clouds, and wouldn't you know it, they detected a highly infectious virus that apparently causes mass strandings, jumps species, travels oceans, threatens all of marine life, and probably hates freedom too, you know? This is where we're at now, people. We don't even need sick people anymore. We don't need symptoms anymore, okay? We just need scary headlines. Scientists are now saying this is a game changer. Everything is a game changer for these scumbags. PCR was a game changer. Wastewater surveillance was a game changer, something none of us ever needed or gave consent to. You know, they're just swimming through our shit, PCR in hand. Now whale breath viruses are a game changer. How long before they start mass culling dolphins? Oh, looks like they got the whale breath virus. They're scaring people with this BS, saying it spreads easily. You know, it jumps species, travels across oceans, and poses a significant threat. Amazing how every virus discovered after 2020 sounds like it has the same publicist. No isolation, no proof of causation, no clear mechanism, just trust us. It's deadly and we need permanent monitoring now, okay? Permanent lockdowns. And the solution, of course, will be long-term surveillance with drones. I mean, think about it. They'll be chasing you with a drone when you're on an afternoon walk trying to PCR test your breath. Test positive, and the drone turns kamikaze and blows you up like the Ukrainian drone footage we've seen lately. Yeah, that's future is looking bright. But here's the best part. The whale breath study was conducted by the Royal Dick School of Veterinary Studies. Not even joking. That is the actual name. So let me get this straight. A drone sniffed a whale's breath in the Arctic, found an invisible killer virus that no one can see, never been isolated, you know, and the scientists backing it up literally work for Dick. Virus Fear Porn Fridays, people. We're back. Because of course we are. It never ends. You blink for 5 minutes and suddenly there's another extinction level pathogen warming up. First it was superflus, then endless COVID variants that, you know, match seasonal vibes. Then drones sniffing whale breath in the Arctic. And now they drag bird flu back out? According to experts, bird flu is the next big one. I mean, this might be, you know, the SPARS document coming into play here because they're saying 2026, you know, the bird flu might come back here and be the next pandemic. It's absolutely everywhere. In quotes, birds, chickens, seals, foxes, bears, cows, sea lions. I'm going through the list. It's literally every damn animal. Elephant seals. Basically, if it's warm-blooded and has the audacity to exist, it's hit with the bird flu, people. In all these articles, you see the exact wording they used during COVID. Same exact psyop, same wording. Okay, words like explosive cases, highly transmissible, and unprecedented. My favorite, unprecedented. Yet there is an unprecedented outbreak every few months. These people use the word unprecedented like I use the word literally. I mean, at this point, it's lost all meaning. Just funny how they use those exact words every time. Humans, though, are still barely affected, and it's funny. That part is clearly awkward and they don't want to touch it, so they avoid it mostly. I mean, how many deaths have happened because of bird flu, in quotes? Barely any. And even in those cases, they were severely immunocompromised again. 70-something cases, and they say 2 deaths happened. But don't focus on that, okay? Focus on the potential. Focus on what might happen. I'm positive at this point, it's the fear itself that's getting a lot of these people sick. Like you can trigger someone's body to go into a detox mode or something if you scare them enough, you know? Like, you know you got the bird flu, right? You can feel it, right? It's everywhere. Guaranteed death sentence, you know? I mean, you're literally scaring people to death. So they're saying bird flu is showing up in dairy cows and that there's viral genetic material in milk. And once again, never a live virus, just genetic material, which once again, it's a total joke, but once again, you know, all going according to plan here. Egg prices exploding, billions get spent on preventative measures for something that doesn't exist, and then they get the excuse to shut down farms, which they tried doing with the climate change BS. saying, you know, the Green New Deals are going to stop these farms from emitting too much nitrogen or CO2, whatever it is. Total BS. And now they have the bird flu BS to go after the same farms. It's absolute insanity. Wildlife gets wiped out because they say culling is needed to slow the spread. Where have we seen that before? And somehow the conclusion is never, we're full of shit. No, it's always, we need to rush through with another depopulation injection to slow the spread. It's always the same exact solution. Oh, and we need permanent surveillance to stop it too. Like, you know, let me guess, a China-style surveillance where AI robots wander the streets, PCR checking people, DICs be like, oh, how did you know we wanted that? It's like, yeah, we're on to you, scumbags. Once a virus gets labeled a threat, it becomes immortal. I mean, the science is laughable. Look at COVID. It just doesn't die out, okay? Never gets solved. It's just endless variant after variant until the end of time. So you need repeated boosters for it. Total joke. Well, you know, evil Chinese scientists started it, you know. They bioengineered it in a lab, and then, you know, now we have to live with it till the end of time. And it also hates freedom, and you need a digital ID to go on the internet now. It's like, oh, that was quick. You know, there's a virus out there, get PCR tested to see if you have it. And all of a sudden we're doing biometric scans just to take a shit in a public bathroom. You see how fast things go? They'll tell you not to panic while explaining that once human to human transmission starts, you've got a window of maybe a handful of cases before containment becomes impossible, end quote. In a lot of these bird flu articles, this is what it says. Totally normal way to talk to the public. Clearly pushing fear, you know, like it's a scene out of World War Z. And of course, they reassure us that we're better prepared now. And they keep saying this over and over again, which lets you know COVID was the beta test. And now they're saying they can test a lot faster. Yeah, considering they have drones that can detect whale breath in the Arctic. Do you not see what's happening here? More tracking, more alerts, more modeling, and a vaccine already waiting in a Bill Gates bunker ready to go. At this point, it's not really about bird flu or whale breath. It's about keeping the threat alive. Because as long as there's a threat, they can justify rolling out the next solution. And we all know what that usually looks like. But when you zoom out, something starts to feel off. You got animals dying across different countries, different ecosystems, different species, all within the same window of time. And that should set alarms off in your head. It's not one thing here or there. It's spread out in a way that doesn't feel random, okay? Birds dropping from the sky at the same exact time all around the world. Many stories like this we're hearing lately, like it's crazy. Would a bird flu have an entire flock of birds drop dead at the exact same time, just drop out of the sky? Is that how flus work? No, that's how vaccines work. The birds are dying suddenly. Something extremely sinister is taking place here. Or more simply, poison. People, wildlife are being poisoned. They say it's a virus before they even get the bodies now. You know, they see a bunch of birds dead. They say, yep, that's the avian flu. It's like this time they're not even going as far as to check them. They're not even PCR checking anymore. They're past that. Nobody ever pauses and thinks maybe something external could be contributing here. Anything involving environmental exposure, you know, the treatments they have for climate change, which they say they're doing, geoengineering, all of this talk is completely off limits, never spoken about. Even though we're talking about mass die-offs hitting animals that share airspace, water, and food sources. You know, this one time in Vancouver was so foggy and smoky too, right? They act like, you know, these are from the forest fires, nothing to see here. But I swear I was smelling something chemical-like. There was a chemical smell going around, and I swear I felt agitated. I was at work and I felt really agitated and didn't know what was going on. Like something felt abnormal. I never feel this way normally, so it's unusual for me. And I was wondering why everywhere I went, I was noticing something. Everyone was on edge. No joke, every store I went into, you know, I had to get groceries and I picked up some food. Every lineup I was in, I saw people getting into it, like fighting, arguing. I thought, this is really weird. You know, something is happening here. What are the chances? At work, people were fighting. I left and in every store I entered, people were fighting. It really was like they were spraying neurotoxins down in some kind of experiment. Just saying, highly unusual. At this point, we got to give Prince his props because he said this on an interview. Didn't he say this exact same thing?
This phenomena of chemtrails. And, you know, when I was a kid, I used to see these trails in the sky all the time, and so, oh, that's cool. A jet just went over. And then you started to see a whole bunch of them. And the next thing you know, everybody in your neighborhood was fighting and arguing, and you didn't know why. Okay, and you really didn't know why. I mean, everybody was fighting. So he started riffing about the chemtrails, and he started to say things that hit home so hard. And I would recommend that everybody try to get what he said online or wherever, and try to get a copy of it and just listen to it.
Not sure what he was talking about, if he's talking about a documentary or book, but how crazy is that? They might have taken him out just for saying that. We don't know. How many celebrities have even spoke about chemtrails? That's a subject that not many people touch on. Instead of looking up, though, we're told to focus on viruses we can't see. You know, we can't really demonstrate clearly as the cause in real time, and somehow manage to show up everywhere at once. Calling it a virus is just the fastest way to stop people from looking any deeper. And just to show this isn't isolated or hypothetical, these stories keep stacking up almost on top of each other, and that's when it starts to feel genuinely creepy, okay? This is not coincidental. You've got one story coming out of Orlando, Florida, where dozens of swans turned up dead at Lake Eola. I don't know if I'm saying that right, Lake Eola. And before there's any real investigation, any confirmed cause, or even time for uncertainty, the explanation is already in place. Officials say they suspect bird flu. You know, case closed. Even though they had the excuse before any testing went down. Not saying the testing is even accurate, but they don't even bother testing anymore. Birds dropping from the skies, and they want us to believe all 100 birds dropped at the same exact time due to avian flu, okay? A murder of crows were murdered by poison. That's what it was. Is that even science? Then you look at what happened in Virginia, and this one's pretty nuts here, okay? People are describing flocks of birds dropping out of the sky mid-flight and hitting the road while cars were driving through town. The road had to be shut down so crews could clean up the bodies. What stands out isn't just the deaths themselves, but how quickly the explanation arrives compared to how little information is actually available. The moment those birds started dropping, they said, well, that's the avian flu, of course. Like, really? Bird flu gets named almost immediately, even when testing hasn't been completed, and even when the circumstances don't neatly line up with how people understand viral spread to work, okay? The label shows up first. So 2026, the bird flu year, the bird flu pandemic, I wouldn't be surprised. Keep in mind, it's always due to poison. The swans that were killed in California, residents there saw people in hazmat suits spraying the whole place with poison. I cover this story all the time because it's such a great point here. The birds were poisoned, the swans were poisoned, and immediately the residents start noticing a pattern here, okay? They came, they sprayed the place. The birds started dying right away. First, they started exhibiting signs of neurological damage, and then they started dying off. Every resident that lived there said it's due to the spraying. And guess what the DIC said? Nope, not due to the spraying. It's due to bird flu. That's it. They're doing it again and again and again. And when you step back and look at all of it, I mean, the whales, cows, crows, swans, ostriches, you know, how many were killed in Canada? Birds falling midair, different countries, different environments, all within the same stretch of time. None of this is like a series of isolated events. It starts feeling like something more sinister is happening. They are poisoning people. They want you blaming imaginary pathogens so you don't see what's poisoning the animals and people. I see so many posts like this on X. They are poisoning us from the sky. 15 minutes outside from one single drop of water from above, burnt, boiled my shoulder, and went to my spine to the left. My skin turned black and the poison traveled down my spinal cord. It's real. A single raindrop, and this person looks like they got hit with a flamethrower. But just to confirm that this isn't some crazy conspiracy theory, check this out.
So joining us now for more is one of the first people to ever blow the whistle on what she says is absolutely happening and that our own government has been involved for decades, spraying chemicals into the air with no regard for the people those chemicals could be hurting. I want to welcome in former U.S. Air Force environmental specialist and geoengineering whistleblower, Kristen Megan. It's great to have you back. Kristen, appreciate you being here. So you've been talking about this issue for years now. Can you take us through what you say is absolutely happening?
Yeah, thanks for having me back. This is absolutely happening, and it's basically now openly admitted, even though you're getting kind of pushback from the EPA, but I don't think it's intentional. What I discovered around starting in 2007, I was working in bioenvironmental engineering in the Air Force. And like I had mentioned previously, I tried to debunk this. And in the attempt to debunk it, I realized as somebody who was approving forms called Air Force Form 3952s, I had to reject these toxicants on formerly known as an MSDS, now an SDS, because they're the very same toxicants we were trying to engineer out of the workplace. So why would we be procuring more? So lots of soil sampling, air sampling. Once I got threatened, I knew I'd found something, and it's very much happening. In fact, when I finished my master's around 2015, it was in one of my environmental textbooks that they were doing it. So it's a shock to me that people still think it's not happening. Yes, yeah. I sold the book, but I wish I still had it.
And we can all see it if you look up, and it just doesn't make sense, that it's coming from like a Delta flight flying overhead. So your role in the Air Force, if I'm understanding it correctly, was basically to approve these flights long before takeoff, and eventually you just said, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. Is that accurate broadly?
Well, it wasn't approving the flights. So when you're using hazardous materials, you have to track them from cradle to grave, use and disposal. So when I was in the Air Force, I'm basically OSHA and EPA, but in the military. So I had to make sure that we were keeping workers safe. So we had to understand what we were bringing on and how could it affect human and environmental health.
Right. People will say to me, they're like, well, we don't think this is happening. If this isn't happening, why have multiple states passed laws banning weather engineering, including Florida, including Texas? Can you explain that?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I know a lot of people have taken the angle of, because people still don't believe it. Even if you don't believe it, there's people that are trying to take action saying, look at what they're claiming. Because when the government claims that they're going to do something, they're already doing it. And they're trying to say, even if you don't believe it, would you want it to happen? It has these human and environmental impacts. So yes, and there's a lot of those legislators have reached out to myself and Dane Wigington over the past couple of years. So they have the information and all the government documents that are on geoengineeringwatch.org.
Biggest question, in your opinion, why is this being done? And again, it might not be EPA, could be DARPA, could be War Department, could be private companies, but why are they doing this?
I think there's a multitude of reasonings. You control the weather, you can handicap many people. We did it flooding the Ho Chi Minh Trail. But when you had this huge climate change initiative, we needed to find ways to dim the sun and decrease the solar load. So this is fear-based. And I also think it's financially incentivized through betting on crops. And again, handicapping anyone in war.
Yeah, so it kind of takes away the organic from anything organic you're buying, because this is then sprayed into the air, and then and gravity brings it down. Eventually, the rain brings it down, and it is all over all of us. What are these crops doing to people? Or I'm sorry, these chemicals doing to people?
Well, a lot of them are heavy alkaline metals and salts, and what they do again is that synergistic toxicity. You're breathing it in. You have the dermal absorption and an inhalation, and it does depend on relative humidity and different weather patterns. Like I live in Michigan, so we have all seasons in the same day.
Right.
So the dissipation rates are faster. When you ingest that, it is eating away at your gut health. And the thing is when they're using strontium and barium, those things bioaccumulate in the bones, and it also displaces potassium. And if anyone's ever had low potassium, you know that causes a massive issue with your nerves and your heart, and it can mimic a heart attack. So we're getting massively bombarded because, again, different routes of exposure, and depending on where you live, you can be more exposed already because you have background elements in your drinking water.
Jeez, it's so scary.
Yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, Kristen Megan, former U.S. Air Force environmental specialist, is saying that once she got threatened, she knew it was real. Spraying sulfur dioxide to stop the sun from shining. Yeah, right. Climate change, right? Here's the good news, though. A lot of people are waking up to this. A lot of people used to laugh at the idea of chemtrails being rained down, but now it's even hitting the mainstream that this is happening. You know, remember the Israeli scientists talking about they can put nanobots in syringes and inject them into you. Well, now they're openly admitting they have those same nanobots and they rain them down from the clouds. And their excuse is, well, it's going to stop the sun from shining, which, you know, the sun is terrible for you, except, you know, it literally keeps us healthy. High vitamin D levels, progesterone, testosterone. I mean, keeps your hormones functioning properly. And they're trying to block that. But get this, in Louisiana alone, over 400 citizens have formally reported what they're seeing in the sky since the state criminalized geoengineering. Official reports to the Department of Environmental Quality, people noticing aircraft trails that don't just disappear but linger, spread, haze out the sun, and block natural light for hours or days. And here's the part the media doesn't touch on. The FAA, NASA, and the NOAA already admit these aircraft-induced contrail clouds can persist, spread hundreds of kilometers, alter weather patterns, and are formed from jet emissions containing metals and sulfur compounds interacting with cold, wet air. That's not a conspiracy, that's what they say, official NASA website. Yet instead of listening, local media did what it always does. They mocked the people they're supposed to serve. They slapped the good old, conspiracy theory label on them, pretended residents are seeing nothing in the sky, contrails, and that's it. And framed the reports themselves as alarming, like there's something wrong with these people for even seeing it, rather than the fact that the sun and sky are being artificially obscured. Classic straw man argument. The actual law doesn't even use the word chemtrail. Most of the reports don't either. People are upset about persistent aerosols, weather manipulation, and what prolonged exposure means for air, soil, water, and health. Just basic human concerns. And polling shows most Americans support banning weather modification altogether. It's not left versus right either. I mean, no matter how badly establishment writers want to keep that outdated script alive, and whatever you want to call it, chemtrails, geoengineering, weather modification, the point doesn't change. The sky and the weather is being altered. Sunlight is being blocked. Weather is being engineered. And hundreds of ordinary people are now putting their names on official complaints instead of being gaslit into silence. Many tests are being done, and they're finding that even aluminum levels in bees are like thousands of times higher. Why do you think you're not seeing that many insects anymore? Birds dropping dead at the same time from the clouds? They're calling that bird flu? Now, of course, it's not just the chemtrails doing this. I mean, we know that 5G towers, that even normal cell phone signals completely interrupt bees, and they can't even get back to their hive in many cases. Many studies were done on this. But it's absolutely remarkable that they're still doing this, pretending like it's going to solve global warming or climate change. I'm going to end this with a video right here, clearly showing that, yeah, they've done tests and insects are coming back in these studies showing heavy metal accumulation thousands of times higher than they should be.
What do we have now? We now know with peer-reviewed study that bees are testing with 70 times more aluminum in their system than what it takes to cause Alzheimer's or dementia in a human being. It's a wonder any of them are alive. 70 times more. And this is important as well. When you have somebody from some agency who's paid to lie, who tells you it's normal to have aluminum everywhere because it's a very abundant element. That is a lie of inaccuracy. Aluminum is very abundant in the environment, yes, but it does not exist in the environment in free form. It doesn't exist in free form. It must be mined and refined and sprayed for it to be scattered everywhere in the environment, and that's exactly what's happening. It's not just the bees that are dying. Every single one of us is being contaminated. These materials are bioavailable. They're building up in our systems, and it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. It doesn't matter. It's a fact. We have the lab test to prove it. There will be no hiding this issue much longer. And what does it appear? The chemical signature for what's showing up in rain tests matches coal fly ash, a substance that the EPA has told us is not harmful. They've been trying desperately to get rid of, and it seems to suit the purposes for geoengineering, and evidence is increasingly indicating that toxic coal fly ash may be one of the base materials they're using to spray because it gives them plausible deniability.
This is unbelievable. So they're spraying poisons down on the people, injecting people with poison left and right. And when people start dying, they say, well, that's the whale breath virus detected in the Arctic. Just total nonsense. And yes, there are ways to detox from it. Remember, NAC is great. Shilajit, it does have fulvic and humic acids. Chlorine dioxide is another one. Things like taurine, amino acids, essential fatty acids, vitamin C. All of these are known to help detox. And yes, this is getting long, folks, and I'm going to leave it there. So happy New Year to everybody listening. If you guys like what I do here, it is greatly appreciated if you hit those links in the description for ways to support. Everything you see here is done by myself, from the research, the editing, everything. So if you appreciate the effort that goes into this, please consider hitting those links in the description for ways to support. Without your support, the show does not carry on. So it's up to the people if they want to see this keep going. Please consider being a monthly subscriber on my Patreon or my Subscribestar. You will be the MVP and you will be helping fund this show, because no big name sponsors here, no ads. This show is fully supported and funded by the people. So if you like what you see here, click those links in the description, folks. Purchase the Eyes Wide Open coffee from Gustavus, Alaska. You will be supporting this show and a business over there. So consider hitting those links. My P.O. box, send me something cool to my mail. You got my P.O. box there in the description. Crypto wallet for all my crypto people out there. If you're watching on BitChute, buy the membership using my affiliate link. It's the first comment on the video. You will be helping support the fight against censorship, supporting free speech, and you will be directly helping me and funding this show and helping BitChute. So it's really important. You guys can purchase the premium BitChute membership using my affiliate link, and that will be greatly appreciated. So please consider hitting those links, folks. Until next week, until next time, this is Steve Eyes. You're on the Eyes is Watching channel, signing off.